So it finally drives. I haven't got a secret helper pushing it. Did it on its own. It's moving under its own steam. Finally, it's taken a lot longer than I anticipated to get to this point. This video is just going to run through the inlet manifold, the intercooler, pipework, radiator mount, basically getting it from the stage it was in the last video where it just fired up to the point where it will now move and run. Next video we're going to be doing the interior, and I will have the doors and bonnet painted for the next video. I'm going to do the wiring loom over the next couple of evenings and just plod through that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video and how we got to this point. So I'm just trying to sort out the inlet manifold and figure out how I'm going to get the air into it. But it's an absolutely stunning evening. I'll just show you guys outside. It's lovely. As you can see, it is a lovely sunny evening. But I'm just trying to figure this out. So that is the original air intake, and that part bolts to the inlet manifold, and that's the part that the pipe would go in from the intercooler and then bolt to it, and it has an O-ring. I don't really want to use any of that, so what I've decided to do, I've got some old 5mm or maybe 4mm stainless plates. I've blown a hole in that with a plasma torch, and then I've got some stainless tube, and I just put my little bead roller on the end and put a tiny ridge in it there, so I can tap that on and it'll sit up to that bead. I can TIG that on as one unit and then make my own intake pipe, because I've been looking at intake manifolds and my gosh, they're expensive. It'd be cool to put a really nice intake manifold on this truck. I've seen some really short ones. There's a few different people that make them. They are lovely and it gives you loads more space, but it's not in the budget at the minute. So maybe in the future, but for now, we're going to make our own intake, and that should work great. More power. So, I just finished welding that up. Don't think it looks too bad. I am slowly getting the hang of this TIG thing. But that saved an awful lot of money, because just to buy that part is quite expensive, or a complete new inlet manifold is a lot of money. So, yeah, that's really good. Next thing, I'm going to cut it out to be a small square, drill the 4 holes, cut it shorter, and I'll show you when we've got it done. But then that's the inlet manifold ready to go on, I think. So good morning, it's the next day. I'll show you where we've got to. Got the inlet manifold nearly ready to go. Chevy behind there, look, cool car. Yeah, I'll show you where we've got to. Ready to fit, I think, just about. So this is the inlet intake pipe that I've made. Pretty chuffed with that. The welding's turned out pretty nice. I'm not a professional TIG welder. This is just practicing really, but it's turned out pretty good. I've drilled and tapped a hole in there. Obviously I need to clean the inlet manifold out, and that'll be my reference pipe going to the Alder to give me on boost fueling. And I've also been making a bracket for the throttle cable. So I took out the fuel heater, a little fuel heater in the head there. I removed that and then made a steel plate with the bracket that I cut off the back of an old Bosch VE pump, and then that runs down to a little pin halfway down that arm. And the reason it's halfway down is because there's not enough throw on the Landrover pedal to get full throttle otherwise. There wouldn't be any point in doing all this job and then not being able to get full throttle. So I quite like that we can use a standard 200 TDI throttle cable though, so that if we're ever anywhere and it busts or any issues, it's not a part that's hard to find. But my next little project is these 2 hoses they're very close. They're actually touching the bulkhead there. So I've got these two little 45-degree doodabbers. They'll just kick them hoses out, and then once I've done that and run a water pipe from there round with those to the pump on the other side, the inlet manifold can go on, which then the whole engine bay is going to look a lot more finished. So that's the inlet manifold all cleaned. I couldn't help it, I got some Acid 8 etch primer, give it a coat of etch primer and then sprayed it black. I wasn't going to bother, but I don't know, I think it'll look great when it's on. So wait for that to dry and we can put that on. I'm just going to show you where we've got to. The oil cooler pipes are now, we've now got the angle adapter on them, so they're stepped away from the bulkhead. Now you can get your hand behind there, obviously they were touching before. I've fitted the hose for that would have gone to the heater box or the heater matrix. We've not got a heater in this truck, well we have, but it's a diesel fired heater, so that's just going to run around to the pump. You can't deadhead that pipe, it's got to circulate, so it's important that we put that on. And I've also, if you can see right down there, I've made a fitting so that I've got an oil pressure sender and an oil pressure switch. That was an absolute nightmare to get down there. As you can well imagine, it's very, very tight. I just got one of those little adapters off Amazon, but I'll show you. But it had a fitting in the end, and that was the wrong fitting. So I ended up chopping the end off, and then TIG welding that closed, drilling another hole in the side and tapping that out to 1/8. And then as you can see, it's down there. So if you're going to do one of these engines in a Landrover, that is something you really need to do beforehand, because that was an absolute pain to do that in the truck. But it's done now. I think the next thing we can do is get some cloth down those intake pipes and clean all the head up and get the inlet manifold bolted on, and then we can start working our intercooler hoses up. So that's the intake manifold painted and dropped on into place. I've put the inlet fitting on the bottom of it, and I've clipped up the oil cooler hoses out of the way. Next thing is going to be working out how to get the pipe work to the intercooler. I've got a universal kit, and I'm going to see what we can make. Some U-bends, some straight parts, but we're going to go make a U-bend, I think, and then out and into the intercooler. I'll get the other camera and show you where it's going to run. So this is what I'm thinking. I've got this U-bend. I'm thinking that's going to fit. I'm going to have to cut it down a bit, obviously. I'm thinking that will fit somewhere like there. And then we can bring the intercooler pipe up through this gap, round and into the back of behind the headlight. So first thing, let's cut that down, put a little bit of bead roll, an edge on it, and then get it into position. So I've been cutting and swaging the ends, and this is how far I've got. It comes at the turbo, round here, up behind the inner wing, through there and out. and that's going to feed straight into the intercooler, which is going to be just sat in front of the radiator, full width to the front of the truck, out of the intercooler, through there, it's very tight, through there, yes, it feeds down there, around there, and into the inlet manifold. So I think now I'm going to spend the next couple of hours getting the file, cleaning all the loose burrs and rough edges on that aluminium tubing, making sure I've got a little ridge or a little bead rolled edge on every tube so it can't pop off. And then we can start mounting the intercooler and the radiator pack. Get the bottom radiator hose on, top radiator hose, got to make that. Some water in it, and then we can actually run this thing for a sustained period of time. Right, I'll do that, and I'll see you guys when all that's together. So guys, that's how far I've got up to. I've got all the pipes sanded, cleaned out inside. We've got the intercooler mounted up in place. It's full width, or nearly full width, as big as I can get in there. The hose runs round, up and into the intake manifold. My thinking with these pipes is I'm not really super happy. They're not the most aesthetically pleasing pipe. Once it's done 1,000-1,500 miles, the truck's had a really good shakedown, we'll get it in, we'll go through it all, make sure, you know, all nuts and bolts and just general check over. I'm thinking about buying some stainless and remaking these in stainless and TIG them all together. And once I pull that off, I can just unbolt it at both ends, and I've got the shape to remanufacture it. I just need to copy that shape basically, so that shouldn't be too bad. So yeah, I think I might do all those. But firstly, let's test it. Let's make sure it runs well, it drives well. Make sure the turbo's not too big. You know, things can be altered. These pipes are really easy to alter and mess about with, so it gives us a bit of flexibility whilst we're still building it. Yeah, and then finished products, I think we'll make all those in stainless, just tidy it up a little bit. But first thing in the morning, coat of paint on that, then we can drop the radiator in. So we've got the intercooler mounted. I've just quickly aerosoled this. I've got another one at the powder coaters, but they said 2 to 3 weeks because they're really busy. So rather than stop the build, I just thought we'll aerosol it. We can always swap that over as soon as it's done. That's how I've mounted it, just with 2 little brackets, and then I've put some stud in here. There are these long nuts on the top. Then I can put a piece of aluminium that I've painted over there to make a bit of a finished edge. Just tidy it up when it's in. We've got the pipes, so the cables for the winch tie wrapped up. The hose now is connected to the side of the pump, running round to the side, the block intake on the back of the head. Ready for the radiator now. Oh yeah, I'll show you guys down here. So this is the new radiator mount. So this is the original position. We've moved them back to here, and then I'll just put them rubber bungs in just so the radiator is nice and soft supported. Right, radiator in, and then some hoses on. Just put a little bit of grease on the bottom of them pins so they slide into them 2 rubbers nicely. So I'll just show you guys what I've been struggling with. It's this bottom hose. I made this hose out of stainless, but because we've moved the radiator back, so everything's very tight, and I just had to lift this hose over the top because it was tie wrapped underneath and it was just too tight with that in place. The radiator is a Rover V8 one, so we get the widest radiator possible for a Defender. And the only thing I did do was change the plastic bung for a brass one, because I've heard they can come out. I've seen it firsthand, then pop out, and you can lose a motor that way. So hopefully we'll get the most amount of coolant and a nice big radiator. It looks well in the front of there, plenty of air flow, shouldn't be an issue too much. You've just got to make a top hose and make 2 brackets. I have made a bit of an aluminium bar, I'll just grab it. That's just going to drop in there, bolt down, Hopefully then it'll keep any excess air from blowing over the top of the rad. It'll force it through the radiator, and then I can take a bolt from there up across and to that bracket to hold that radiator in place. Stopped you dropping all the spanners and tools in the top as well, so that's good. So, good morning everybody. Another day of working on the Landy. This morning I'm just going to sort the headlight bezels out, but I'll show you what we've done so far. I've just dropped the inlet manifold back on. We've got the radiator all mounted up. I need to paint those two brackets on the top. Yeah, we're getting there slowly. This is the main issue though. So I knew this was going to be a problem, and I pre-ordered some thin LED headlights. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but they're going to work for us. So my original plan, I bought some original headlight buckets. As you can see, chop the back off, tried to chop a slot out of it to sort of, it wasn't working. And my brother had bought some of these off Amazon for his T25, and they didn't fit on his T25, so he gave them to me. And I got to thinking, I don't need that rear ring. If I use, because they're on springs, if I used some riv nuts, put 3 riv nuts in the right positions, one here, one here, one here. That one is very close to the edge. I've got a washer behind it. It's secure. It's very close to the edge. There's not going to be no pulling force on it though. It's just going to be pushing and pulling that way as for headlight adjustment. I can then adjust the headlight with those 3 screws, and it'll sit far enough forward to clear that pipe. So this is it stripped down, the bracket stripped down. And then these are 3 springs. And then it'll just sit in there. Back of the headlight comes to within about ½ inch of the front of that. So it's close, but it doesn't touch. But yeah, intercooler's all hooked up now. Oh, and I've been doing some other bits last night as well. Just show you around. I got a centre console. I mounted my reversing monitor screen in the middle. My switches for my spotlights and things. Then we've got the heater controls for the diesel blown air heater, boost pressure gauge, and an exhaust temperature gauge. So I can keep an eye on the exhaust temperatures, don't want to see that to get too hot, and I've got a proper boost pressure gauge. It's an electric one, so it's not got a manual reference, and it goes to this little sender I've just put onto the bulkhead there, and that pipe runs round underneath and into that little T-piece on the bottom of the inlet manifold. Right, I think I'm going to get this other side drilled, put my 3 riv nuts in, then I can mount the headlight on this side. I've got to pull the wiring through that wing, and then once the wiring's through, I can put the front covers on, the wheel arch spats can go on, the grille can be painted and put on, that's down here. I need to chop out this bottom section, it's bent anyway. That needs painting black, that can go on. Then the last thing to go on, I think, is going to be the bonnet. I need to tidy up some pipes and cables and stuff, but we can drop the bonnet on and just see how it's going to look. Right, I'll crack on. Right, a few days have gone past since the last little bit of filming. I actually caught a virus and I've not been feeling very well. I've been doing a little tiny bit at night time, but just basically put the front end together loosely. We're going to pop this headlight cover and everything back off because I just need to adjust something. And then I'll show you where we've got to with the headlight mount. I've got the top hose done. I sat and tigged that together. And then the next thing what I want to do before I put expensive coolant in this thing, I've got a coolant system pressure tester. I bought this years ago. It's a good quality one. It does loads of different vehicles. You can get them super cheap on Amazon. This was a lot of money years ago. Now they're like 30 quid. Whack that on there, and then I can pressurise the coolant system, and then we'll know if we've got any leaks before we put 50 quid worth of antifreeze in it. Right, let's get to it. So that's the front end nearly together. I have just got to pop it apart quick, but I'll show you guys that in a minute. The radiator hose runs around here, that's 35mm. Stainless is 38, so that's a 35 to 38mm straight adapter. Goes around there and then into the top radiator hose, and there's got a rubber joiner there. The reason I want to do this in stainless as well is then if this belt ever deflects that much, I don't think it will, the belt will rub on that stainless pipe and neither will cause each other a problem doing that. That's hooked up, ready to pressurise it. I did pressurise it last night and it leaked. So, and it was this fitting that goes round into the block. I'd split the O-ring when I put that in. So I've put a new O-ring on that and then we can have another go. It's really handy though, because obviously you can pressure test it in a clean environment. You don't have to get water all over your workshop floor. Just pressurise it up. If it doesn't leak, it's going to hold coolant, isn't it? So I've just blown it up to 10 psi, if you can see on there. And then what we'll do, we'll let that sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And if it's still at 10 psi, we know we've got a completely watertight coolant system. I know we're pressurising it with air, but it's the same principle. If no air can escape, it means we're watertight, so that's spot on. So I was just going to show everyone how the headlights are fitted. This is that ring, and then behind there, if you can see behind there, is the spring that presses onto the front of the riv nut. And then all I've done, I'll show you on this side. Normally the headlight adjusters would be here and here on the 110. I've just drilled 3 small holes that I can put my Allen key through, which line up with those bolts. And I can adjust the headlight without taking all them covers off. The only thing that it has done is instead of the headlight sitting back, it's moved them to that front edge, which I don't actually mind. So move the headlights forward slightly, which has given us room for the pipe work, and we can still adjust them. There's always a compromise when you're doing things and it's not straightforward. It's not just a factory fit, you know. There's always a little hurdle to try and get around to. But I think that's come out quite nice. I've just got to take the grill off because we need to fit the horn. So pop the grill off, fit the horn, and then we can put the front end together once and for all. So we've just got all the front end back together, I've wired the horn up. It's a little quiet, but it'll do for now. We've still got 9.8 psi on there. It's not foolproof, but it's a really good indication that I don't think we've got any leaks. So I'll pop this off and then put this away, and then it's time to put some coolant in it. Nice feeling when you get to putting coolant in stuff, because you know you're getting nearly there. I'm going to use the red long life. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but you can get these in clear or black. And for this one, I decided to go for a clear one. It's a really easy indication. Just pick the bonnet up and you can see how much coolant you've got, rather than having to take the top off every time. I haven't quite finished with the glow plug wiring, so I'm just going to short the solenoid out, get the glow plugs to light for a second or two, and then fire it up and see if we can get some water around this thing. actually runs. We'll try the throttle from inside. I've never done this before. Oh yeah, that sounds good. This thing makes some right noises, this thing does. So we've been running it for about 5 minutes. I've just shut it down. I know we've got good water flow because I saw water coming back up there and it's hitting the top of the header tank here as it was running. So I know we've got good water flow. I'm going to let it cool down now, and then what I need to do is push it outside and let it run for half an hour just with the cap loose, and just make sure we've got no air bubbles in the system and make sure we've got no air locks. I've overfilled it and I'm hoping that's going to be obviously sucked down into any air locks. The next thing I need to do, the last job before fitting the inlet manifold, because I forgot about this, is the clutch pipe, which runs from way down there, up round the bulkhead, across into the clutch master cylinder. So I need to put that on, then I can put the inlet manifold on, and then I think that's the engine bay pretty much buttoned up. I'm going to put cooling fans in, but not yet. I'm going to run it just as it is for now, see what it's like. I've got 2 different ideas with cooling fans. One's expensive and one's cheap, so we'll see. Oh, I haven't showed you guys, we've got the wheel arches on. I just put them in with 4 or 5 of them little plastic clips. I think it looks pretty smart with the eyebrows on, wheel arch eyebrows. So I've just done that clutch pipe. It runs up there around the solenoid. I didn't obviously anticipate the clutch pipe going around there, so now around that solenoid, up, across, and I have bled the clutch system up with some fresh brake fluid. I have found one issue. I'll just see if I can get in here and show you. There we go. Ready on the clutch. The clutch is super heavy, so I mean, it's not going to be a problem. It's just really springy. It's not going to be a problem, but it's just not going to be the nicest vehicle to drive with a clutch like that. Right, next thing we're going to do is just get this inlet manifold bolted on. Would you pass us the inlet, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's okay.
It's dropped into place. Right, let's get some bolts, bolt that down. So I've got a special little cameraman helping me on this bit, haven't I?
Yeah.
Right, do you want to jump on that stall?
Yes.
And then point the camera, and we'll tell everyone what's happening.
Oh.
Hold it that way. Right, point it at the engine. So we've got all these new bolts in. If you guys do one of these, I took these bolts out, assuming they were M6, threw them over my shoulder and thought, we'll put fresh bolts in there. They're not M6, they're M7, and they're a bit of a pain to get. So yeah, look after your intake manifold bolts if you do one of these conversions. We've got the pipe off the bottom, the reference pipe now, running round to the Alder to give us on boost fuel in, and then we've connected the hose underneath. You just put the camera in a little bit more, Ed, in towards the engine a bit. That's it. Put the boost hose on the bottom, so that's all clamped up. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to fire it up, aren't we?
Yes.
And we're going to see if it will move. Let's set the other camera up and see if we can get it to move. Right, let's see if we can fire it up and see if it'll move. I'll just turn the dash on. Got good oil pressure straight away. Give us a thumbs up, Ed. You can't hear, he's got his ear defenders on. Right, let's see if it'll move. Oh yes, it's moving. Sounds very different with the intake manifold on. Quite a bit more responsive. Right, shut it down. So guys, overall, that was a really good first run. We've got the headlights in, working, indicators working, the inlet manifold's on, all the pipe work's done. Whoop. It sounds completely different with the inlet manifold on. Now it's much raspier, it's much quicker accelerating, but it's lost all of the intake noise, obviously because it's sucking air through the turbo. Next thing I think is we'll just drop the bonnet on and make sure it shuts and clears that area. That's the only bit I'm concerned about. Other than that, I think we're getting on really well. We're very close to actually going for a first test drive in this thing. Remaining jobs to do, the list isn't that long anymore. It's put some interior in it, paint and fit the doors, paint and fit the bonnet, and repaint the roof. All those jobs aren't huge, but it's coming along very well. So cleaned the shed out a little bit, cleaned all the tools off the truck, pulled it outside. First little bit of moving, it seems really good. Very stiff on the rear suspension, as you can see, went over that little bump. I'm really happy with it. So far, I'm over the moon. It really is nice to get to this point where it's driving and running. I think next video on this truck is going to be putting in the new seats. I've got some retrim cover sets for the seats, so I'm going to retrim them, paint all the frames, fit the seats. Next video I will have the wiring all done. I'm just going to do that over the next couple of evenings, just plod through the wiring loom and get it all done. And I will have the doors painted and the bonnet on. So the next video is basically going to be finishing the interior and going through it, nut and bolt, just checking over everything, fluids, that sort of stuff. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.